Okay, students, so today I'm going to talk about CPCTC. As you see, I have underlined here what it stands for. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And instead of having to write that whole thing out, we always just write CPCTC. So you're going to memorize that. So let's think about that. Corresponding parts. We've been identifying corresponding parts. You know, you start with congruent triangles. You match up their corresponding sides or angles. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles. So notice we have to know that they are congruent already. So we have proven them congruent already. And as you see in the next line down, CPCTC is always used after proving triangles congruent. And how do you prove them congruent? By one of those 5 ways we just did the other day. Side angle side, side side side, angle angle side, angle side angle, or hypotenuse leg. Okay. So after you've proven triangles congruent, you still have other markings within the triangles, corresponding angles or sides that haven't been marked yet. And this, then, you're able to say any of the other corresponding sides or angles that haven't been marked already are all now congruent. Now, usually you only have to identify one other piece, but you could identify every other piece, the other 3 pieces. Remember, because in the CPCTC here, you're only in the proven triangles congruent here, you're only identifying 3 pieces of the 6, right? We have 2 sides and angle for SAS. That means you still don't have another side and you don't have the other 2 angles. Okay, here we have SSS, we have 3 sides, but we don't have the 3 angles. Okay, so you can identify any of the other corresponding parts congruent by CPCTC after you have proven the 2 triangles congruent by one of those 5 ways. Okay, so let's look at some examples. I'm not writing out the proof on the 1 and 2. I'm just going to explain it to you, but down here in 3, you'll actually see the proof. Okay, so says prove triangle H is congruent to triangle. Prove angle H is congruent to angle M. Okay, well, don't forget we have an S and an A. Okay, we must be able to get some piece on our own free. And of course, as I told you already from prior video, you first are looking for vertical angles and you're looking for reflexive property if they share a side or an angle. So here we have vertical angle theorem. So since one arc is already used for angles J and L, now we go up to 2 arcs. So now notice we have AAS. Remember, that's the tricky one. The S must be next to the same angle, and it's next to the 1 arc there, and it's next to the 1 arc there. So those are the corresponding sides. So now these 2 triangles are congruent by AAS, and then we'd be able to say now that they're both congruent. Remember, congruent means same size, same shape. That every angle, every corresponding angle is congruent, and every corresponding side is congruent, exactly the same. Well, we've only got 3 markings on here. So now that I've proven it congruent by AAS, I can say angle H is congruent to angle M. I could also say side segment HK is congruent to MK. And lastly, I could say segment JK is congruent to segment LK. Of course, I only was asked to do one of those. Only the angle H is congruent to angle M. That is it. And that's usually how it is. But I could have done the other 2 pieces as well. And that justification is CPCTC. Okay. Again, it's only used after you prove the triangle is congruent. So let's look at number 2. Prove that angle N is congruent to angle Q. Okay. Well, again, I had the 2 sides given to me as congruent. And of course, I'm now looking for a free piece I can get on my own. So I can see that the middle segment here is in both triangles. So it's reflexive. It's equal to itself. Remember, that is reflexive property. Reflexive property of congruence. Okay, I could have just said REFL for reflexive. Okay, so now let's look at what it says. So let's explain it verbally. Now let's look at it in a proof, what it would look like in a proof. Remember, always the first step in this is the proof is the given. So that's why you see this right there in your reason. Remember, that's also called in the old books for up until the last maybe 10 years, they were always called justifications. So reasons or justifications are the same thing. Okay, and so those two pieces are identified on the drawing. Okay, now if those two pieces, that segment in being congruent and the angle being congruent, if they weren't marked, I would mark those right now because I can do that for free because it's given to me. Okay, but they already marked for you. And then I'm asking myself, then I always ask, what can I get for free? And again, I see vertical angle here. So angle, as you see down here, that's the next step, angle YAZ. Where I go up to 2 arcs now because 1 arc's already been used for angles Y and B. YAZ is congruent to BAC. Remember, I must put it in corresponding order. And of course, that's because the justification that is the vertical angle theorem, as you see right here. That should be right here. Okay, so now do I have enough to prove the triangles congruent? Yes, I do, by ASA. So now I go ahead and say that the two triangles are congruent by ASA. Again, the order of the first triangle, how I name it, doesn't matter. But however I name this first one is going to depend on how I name the second, because the second has to be in corresponding order to the first. So I didn't have to say YAZ. I could have said ZAY. I could have said AZY. But the point is, whatever order I put it on the first one, I must correspond it with the second one. That's what matters. And of course, our justification is ASA. So now we've proven these two triangles congruent. Now we can say any other piece that's not marked yet, any other corresponding piece, whether it's a side or an angle, is also congruent. But notice what we're trying to prove. Remember, what you're trying to prove is always your last step. So I'm trying to prove that segment AZ is congruent to segment AC. Again, I can do that now because I've proven the triangle is congruent, which means all the pieces, all the corresponding pieces, all 6 are congruent. Okay, and so now my last step is just to name that. I just drew an arrow down here to save time in the video. And then, of course, my justification is CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles, I just proved them congruent by ASA, are congruent. And that's a corresponding part. In this case, it's a side. Okay. That will do. Oh, no. Let's see. Did I do anything on this one? Let's do one more here. Complete this proof. So again, the first step in all proofs, write down the given. So you see right there, justification given. It's always your first step in a proof. Okay. And if they weren't marked, I would mark them. Of course, those pieces are marked on here. Okay. I cross these out because I don't need you to write down. Some books will make you write down more steps for it. So this just says they're perpendicular, and we know if they're perpendicular, they're right angles. And so that's what they wrote down right here, right angles. And that's the definition of right angle. Another word for perpendicular is right angle. And then if they're right angles, now we can say that they are congruent, which is what this step is. Okay. And it'd be definition of congruence because they're the same. They're both right angles. Okay. I'll let you skip those steps there. They have it on the drawing there for you. Okay, and so what piece do we can get for free here? The vertical angles. So that's what I have next. And here, notice it even tells you vertical angles are congruent. That's how it'll be written on the DCAS. And so even on the DCAS on a proof, it'll be like this as well. They'll fill in one side and you fill in the other side. They give you a statement, you identify the reason. It'll be from a drop-down menu, multiple choice to choose from, so you don't even have to remember what they are. There'll be multiple choice to choose from in a drop-down menu. Or they'll give you the reason as they do number 4, and you have to pick the statement, again, a drop-down menu statement, okay, and make sure it's in corresponding order. Okay, so make sure you check that. So now we have enough to prove the two triangles congruent by ASA, right? So Uh, oh, this number 5, for whatever reason, and sometimes they do this even on the DCAS, they will not put all the givens in the first statement. Okay, that's why you see me draw an arrow back up here. They should put all the givens. See, they left out this given right here, and they put it way down here, step 5. They, I've always been taught, and there's no reason not to put all of your givens in the first statement. Okay, so that again would be given. Okay, because that was given to you. And now we have the two triangles are congruent by ASA. Okay, put them in corresponding order. And then lastly, when we're trying to prove angle A is congruent to angle E, and whatever I'm trying to prove is always my last step. Okay, so that goes there. And since I just proved congruent, any other part within those congruent triangles is also congruent by CPCTC. Okay. Let's see. I think that is enough right there. Okay, I don't think I did anything else. Nope. All right, that'll do it. 12 minutes almost, 11 and a half.